it's wrong to criticize leaders of the church, even if the criticism is true.
Travis Wingoodsell. I see Book of Mormon Central. They did a video a week ago for Come Follow Me, as they've been trying to help Mormons with their study of the Book of Mormon this year. And if you've been following along with my videos, you know that I've been following the Book of Mormon as well. I've shown how the Book of Mormon is not an actual history. It's not even a real story. But I've shown how it's encoded, giving a warning message telling us about our day and this year for the past 4 years. It has been about the past 4 years, as 1 Nephi chapter 1 starts us off in 2017. And here we are in 2020, as the Book of Mormon tells us that the Senate would acquit the president who was put in 2017, that there would be a viral pandemic scourge on the whole world this year, and that president put in 2017 would lose in 2020. And we're not even done yet. We still have 4 more years. 4 more years. 4 more years. But it's all happened. And I've gone over with you how that whole Jesus coming from outer space thing in 3 Nephi chapter 11 corresponds with John the Revelator's Jesus coming out of heaven on Pegasus. That they're not actual events. They are signs in the heavens. It's all encoded. John the Revelator even tells us, hey, this is a sign, the heavens are opened unto me. How did people miss that? Because people see what they want to see. People see what they're told to see by religious leaders. And so, how can Mormons tell if the LDS Church has brainwashed them? Because these two farms remnants, they've got the farm symbol for their thumbnail for Book of Mormon Central. So they're Mormon apologists, which means that they purposely are deceiving Mormons. That's what apologist is. And I know they want to argue with the definition. You can't. An apologist is someone who uses unsound argument. And they say, no, it's a defender. Yeah, using unsound argument. That's what an apologist is. It's a fake news. And so How can you tell if you, as a Mormon, have been brainwashed? And I'm just going to go down a whole list, going into detail when necessary, but much of this should be self-evident. When asked a question about Mormonism, instead of explaining it in your own words, you quote scripture masteries. You use catchphrases from conference talks. See, that shows that you've been loyal in attending church, reading your scriptures, memorizing the scripture masteries, listening to conference, but you haven't learned anything. All you're doing is parroting what the church is telling you to parrot. This all fits with how people actually have a switched off or on from their normal speaking patterns. They're no longer talking as an actual person. They're now talking as a robot puppet from the church. And psychiatrists or psychologists love to drool over this as they are a fake science, but they call it a dual personality. It's not a dual personality, it's brainwashing. You become another person, what the church has brainwashed you for. When certain key words are spoken to you, asking you about Mormonism, all of a sudden you switch off into this other character for being brainwashed. And so your speech pattern changes in talking about the church. And those who know you best immediately recognize it. And they're like, okay, you're getting weird. I'm concerned. You know, at one point we were talking about your day at work, and now all of a sudden you're talking about Jesus love. It's a completely different speech, and nobody recognizes the difference. Or people recognize the difference, but they don't recognize you anymore. And I've already gone over with these apologist yahoos. They use fallacies to defend the church and their claims. And there's places you can go to learn what a fallacy is. You can even go to the Book of Mormon to learn what a fallacy is. The Antichrist, the bad guys in the Book of Mormon all use fallacies. And so that's what I talked about in yesterday's video, is how horrifying it is that Mormons all missed it. All missed these prophecies of the latter days, as Mormons are Latter-day Saints. This is what we were waiting for. This is what our name is for, and all Mormons missed it. Because of yahoos like these two guys. As the church has allowed for this fallacy defense. And so much of these arguments are based upon this in some form or fashion. But because majority of you will not go over a list of fallacies to learn them, and then find out which ones you've been brainwashed by the church with, I'll then go over some other stuff. Mormons are not putting much effort into scripture and history research. Again, only what the church tells them to learn is as far as they'll go. Even if the person goes so far as to actually look up the footnotes that were done in 1981 and 79, it's still with a Mormon bias and censorship. I should know. I tried to correct a lot of it when I was involved in the project for the foreign language editions. And so the church keeps putting out new history books over and over, but each and every single time it's missing information that's critical for Mormons to understand. It's lying about information even after they've been caught lying, and even lie about what has been exposed. I've gone over with you how Rough Stone Rolling and No Man Knows My History and those types of critical books about church history are only exposing what Brigham Young and crew claim Joseph Smith is guilty of, which the church had covered up. And so these critics of history are only uncovering that the church had covered up what Brigham Young falsely accused Joseph of, so that they can do those things. Nobody actually goes to the actual history to find out what Joseph Smith did or did not do. And that's what I've been going over with you in my videos. Real Mormon history. Which directly applies to the Book of Mormon. Canandaigua, New York is the keystone city of Mormon history and American history. That event that took place in Canandaigua in 1826 is why we experienced what we experienced for the past 4 years. This is what I've been warning everybody about. And yet the algorithms for YouTube have made sure that I'm censored as best as possible. The church is a heavy investor in YouTube through Google. They don't want the information out. They don't mind about the Fawn Brody and John DeLynn. Yeah, they don't care. They don't care about that fake news. It's my truth that I've researched that scares them, that they are desperate to try to murder me, to censor me, to silence me, to disappear me again. Mormons, because of their brainwashing, don't criticize contradictions that they come across themselves, which is why they don't put much effort into scripture study. A contradiction. I'm going to put it away. I don't want to deal with it. I'll learn about it sometime after I'm dead or in the millennium. They don't answer unanswered questions in the church. As the church, if you remember, not too long ago, came out and said, it's okay to have questions, just don't question the church. This was in specific response to the CES letter of Jeremy Reynolds, whom they excommunicated. But as I go over those, I realize, oh, okay, Jeremy, you're a puppet for the critics. Gotcha. And that's why people like John DeLynn embrace him. But again, all he's done is uncovered that the current church is lying about the lies of the Brighamites. And so that Mormons never question claims of the church. And so another thing that we've seen in our American society is that people will parrot distraction consequence arguments, avoiding the cause of the consequences. And so that has to do with the current church. Is they'll say, you're just being anti-Mormon if you criticize the church. And so they distract everybody with the consequences. They don't get to the heart and cause of the matter. And so, for example, if critics say, well, Joseph Smith raped a 14-year-old girl, the church will respond with, he's a prophet of God. You're anti-Mormon. You need to allow us to worship how we may. See how they distract from the cause. And the cause isn't whether he's a rapist of a 14-year-old girl or not. The cause is Brigham Young accused him. And of course they took it from Oliver Cowdery, who was upset that Sidney and Joseph were going their own direction and Oliver Cowdery was being left out. Now the three of them were involved from the beginning. And so that is interesting. But for Oliver Cowdery to then throw out, oh, you're having sex with that 14-year-old girl housekeeper, aren't you? I know you are. I hate you. See, we know those kinds of people who they're being left behind, and so they're upset that they've been betrayed as the third wheel, and so those people lash out with false accusations just to see if anything fits, anything works, that people then confess of guilt. Book of Mormon, die Mormon? Oh, born Mormon. Born Mormon, die Mormon. This is where Mormons are Mormon just because they were born Mormon. I saw this on my mission for the church in New York. Knocking on a door, and a person will say, I was born Catholic, I'll die Catholic. Slam the door in our face. Same thing with Mormons. You've been brainwashed because you've treated the church as if it's a religious identity, and that therefore nobody can touch you, judge you, criticize you and your church. Sorry, it doesn't work. You can't claim that. Another one is that part of the extortion threat that the church does. They threaten you, they guilt trip you, they make you think incorrectly about the religion, because there's 3 kingdoms of glory, Mormons, not heaven and hell. And yet Mormons are scared to leave or lose their activity status because of this extortion threat, using religion to threaten Mormons to stay Mormon. And as a result, family members and other Mormons and friends, they use this on those who say, oh no, this is a step too far, I'm out. They use those same scare tactics on them to get them back into church activity, back into the church. That's why Mormons hover over ex-Mormon video channels. That's why Mormons hover over those who are investigating. Not just because they're attractive women, which that happens a lot on YouTube, I've noticed, but because they actually state themselves, we are working on them to bring them back into church, or to get them to join the church. And how well is that doing? By telling people that they're evil and wrong? Is that the right tactic? Is that building relationships of trust, building upon common beliefs? No. You're using threats. And that just doesn't work. Another thing that you know you're brainwashed is when you're committing crimes for the church and to protect the church. A bishop rapes a little girl. What does the church say you're supposed to do? Call the hotline. It leads to the lawyers who will say, okay, well, we need to cover this up. Make sure the public is not informed as best as we can until it does hit the fan. Yeah. Or in your regular profession, as a YouTube employee screening videos, and you're coming across a certain critic's videos, and you say, uh-oh, well, we got to slow this processing down. Or you get somebody to claim that, oh, he's speaking negative about the church, he's denying the church their freedom of religion. Oh, okay, great. Your video is a violation of YouTube's policies. Uh-huh. Now what about these others that the church doesn't care about? These other LDS critics that are getting hundreds of thousands of views. Yeah. They know who to target and who to leave alone. And it's a crime. Cybercrime for YouTube employees. And any Mormon who commits a crime against a person who doesn't believe in the church, who knows the church is not true. It's a crime to attack them, to discriminate against them, to punish them, to commit any kind of crime against them. And if you do that, you know you're guilty of brainwashing. The Church of Jesus Christ would not be a church of crime. That's Lucifer's church, remember? But Mormons forget. You know you're brainwashed when all you're using church for is your social standing in the community. Oh, I have to show a loyal front for my neighbors. I can't let them know that I don't believe. I'll just go for the social interaction. You shouldn't need church for that. There are plenty other ways to have a social group of something you're interested in. Social media should have been designed for that, but they obviously failed, as their algorithms exploit us for money. As thumbs up and thumbs down, likes or dislikes, have been used for abusive treatment by anonymous people, instead of having it be a safe place for people to express their interests and likes. And so, as a result of the church attacking me, I have no choice but to defend myself by using a social media platform to spread the word wide to defend me. The church is attacking me. Heads up, guys. If the church had just left me alone this whole time since 1998, I wouldn't be in this position, first of all, but I would be pursuing translation. I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, deciphered Egyptian petroglyphs, was showing that the church, Joseph Smith technically, was a translator. And the church just could have left me alone, but instead they've attacked, and so I have to focus on correcting the church, criticizing the church, laughing hysterically when Nelson comes out with the wrong definition of Israel in conference. Oh God. Mormons also don't know the definitions of authoritarian leadership, governance. In the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I have heard the lesson over and over and over and over again of how the church is fascist. I don't know if the people that are talking about it that way are understanding that that's what they're doing. I hope not. But when they talk about when we as Mormons are bound together, just like sticks, bound together and tied in place, we remain strong in the gospel. But if one gets away, they are weak and they fall away and are easily snapped. Do you not understand what the fascist symbol is? Oh dear God. So no, the ad populum, for populist even, which is what Steve Bannon has gone around changing the definition of fascism in Europe. If you're familiar with that change that took place, globalism versus populism. Yeah, communism versus fascism. Got it. You're changing the name again. But that's also part of it, is definition changing. So that the church can then use those general religious terms, and Mormons automatically assume definitions. And then the church is then able to say, like during Nelson's term in office, say, oh yeah, we're hinge pointing. Yeah, it's now a new normal. And Mormons miss it, because they've been using the definitions that Mormons have previously understood and are loyal to, and then, yeah, they sneak in, hey, we're taking you away from the covenant path. We're still on the covenant path, just not the covenant path you thought we were on. You know, and then pretty soon you've been boiled in that frog of boiling. You deny science. Embracing superstitious, supernatural dogma. Nelson himself did it with coronavirus. Oh, we're going to cure it with a fast. You got to do it twice because the first one didn't work. And how well is that second one? Why isn't there a third one? Yeah. I'm a man of science. I was a doctor myself, as you all know. I'm the famous, world-famous heart surgeon who saved the life of Spencer W. Kimball. But I'm also a man of faith. Oops. What? Okay, so we're now anti-science in regards to a coronavirus, and religion is now going to dominate our belief systems. Yeah. You've been brainwashed. Another one, as part of the ad populum, is that Mormons will all speak the same lingo in the same group settings, whether they go from Mormon group to Mormon group. This is why California Mormons don't fit in Utah. They have to learn to speak the Utah lingo. Otherwise, we're those liberal Californians. See, that Mormons here in Utah know they are hardcore fascists. They just don't call it that. They're in denial. Or they're trying to gaslight the rest of us. But there is a peer lingo. They have certain key words that must be spoken in all certain social situations to let people know we're all on the same Zion thinking process. We're of one mind. And yeah, well, it's the wrong thinking process. A desire to punish and harm X's and nons, especially when they criticize the church. I've brushed over that about committing crime, and about willing to commit crime, not just believing that crime is not a crime when the church does it. The church can't commit crime. Article of Faith number 12, anybody? Anybody? Just because Trump allows everybody to commit crime doesn't mean that it's okay to commit crime. Have you forgotten the story of King Noah? He gave a pass to all his people that crime was okay, and they were all doing it. So then this troublemaker, Abinadi, comes along, says, hey guys, you're going to lead to destruction here. You need to stop it. Oh, you're a terrorist. You're mentally ill. Lock him up. Murder him. And then sure enough, destruction comes. You can't just deny that you're committing crime. You can't just deny that the church is not guilty of crime. Consequences follow. You can't be a consequence denier, because the consequences bite you in the ass each and every single time, as we've seen with coronavirus. And all of this is part and parcel to have Mormons embrace Luciferian doctrines and calling themselves Christian. Again, you see definitions being altered so that Mormons don't see that their agency has been taken from them by the church. That's what Lucifer's plan of happiness was. Taking away agency, forcing compliance to control people's lives, socially control them with everything they do in life. And Mormons say, yay, let's do it. And the church leaders are going, yeah, we know the church gospel from Joseph Smith of allowing free agency is wrong. It's a failed system. Can't work, because mankind will choose evil. And we've just proven it, because we have Mormons who choose to have their agency taken from them. It should scare everybody, but instead, Mormons embrace it. They use it on others. I saw it with my own parents. They used Lucifer's doctrines to raise me as a child. which is why I'm the black sheep of the family, because I refused. And it was Mormon scripture that I embraced, and thus made me the black sheep of the family, the troublemaker in the church, whom they want silenced, dead, and gone, so that nobody knows that the church is a fraud, that the church is pure evil. And so they don't allow the Jeremy Runnels, the John DeLynns, Denver Snuffers, all those other critics, the Tanners. They allow them to be known and to spread their misinformation about the misinformation about the misinformation of the church. Because it's still taking people in the wrong path, away from who Brigham Young was. And then, of course, part of that distraction is that as Mormons, we're supposed to be pre-Israelites, pre-captivity Israelites. And because nobody fully understands what that is, yeah, I know, I myself had to discover it. We're not Christian, we're not Jew, we're not Mormon Christian, we're pre-captivity Israelites, which is Egyptian. And so we know we're brainwashed if we claim to be Christian. No, we're Christian. No, you're not. You believe in a Heavenly Mother. No, we're Christian. No, you believe in temple worship rituals. No, we're Christian. No, you believe that the gods are more than one and are separate beings, physical beings. No, we're Christian. It goes on and on. Whole long list of why we're not Christian. We're pre-captivity Israelites who are Egyptian. So quit arguing with Christians. Just say, yes, we're not your Christian. Leave it at that. Christians must allow freedom of religion, but not freedom to use religion to commit crime. That's the difference. So that's just a brief list, and it's gone almost 40 minutes. I need to shower and shave. So, yeah, you know you're brainwashed if any of this rings home for you. If I've been able to break down that wall that the church had you build.